The obvious benefits of this are more opportunity to post great content, which gives you a wider and bigger opportunity to reach more people. And then everyone has their subset niche and perspective. And so you get this really human, personal experience from a brand that a brand account could never replicate. So today we're going to be talking about how we can do this because the last thing that we want is to have employees feel like they're content creators on top of the work that they already need to do. And the reality is that no one will post if it just feels like work and there's no obvious way or obviously reason to be able to do it. And we can run this whole system in Claude. And so you can make a really efficient system for your team. And so if you're a head of marketing or a content creator already, you maybe have already tried to encourage your team to post content on their own. And what happens, especially in this era of AI, is that everyone says, sure, and they start posting. And while output maybe doubles, you actually start to see engagement drop. And that's because people don't have the right system or the right structure to know how to write good and effective social copy. Or they're just going right into ChatGPT, producing something on first pass, calling it done, and sending it back to you and saying, here's a done product. And then you have to spend the additional time to rewrite it. And so um, what we want to do is actually be able to build a system that your team can plug into. And so you can service the ideas, you can tell them exactly, what the angle you want, and all you need is to be able to gather their perspectives. And the interesting thing about this is if you use tools like Gong or another Fathom or a way to record your notes, you can actually be able to pull their perspectives in automatically without having to pull them for an interview every time. This is what makes this system fully agentic versus something that adds more work. And we'll show you how to do that in later slides. A little bit about me and why I, have an opinion on this. We run a go-to-market growth agency. We have focused on executive thought leadership and specifically LinkedIn content for the last 3 years. I personally have built my, brand on LinkedIn to over 18,000 followers. And we've had a chance to work with some of the most fastest growing startups in B2B over the last couple of years. And so what we've done is we've taken the learnings from all of these clients and distilled them into this process. And what's cool is we've had this frontline view into how Claude has been evolving. And so we've been updating our best practices in real time to show you guys how to run this for your own. So what we're going to do is talk through why context beats prompting. I think a lot of people get obsessed with writing the perfect prompt, but if you're really using Claude effectively, you're not prompting at all. So how we can use context to create better prompts, what your weekly workflow will be, so how we can come up with content ideas, how we can write effective hooks, and how we can triage it to end in the entire process, and then how you can actually deploy this for your team. So starting next week, you can have a fully operational system without additional overhead. So the first thing that we need to wrap our head around is context, right? What is the context going into the post itself? Because if you just give Claude a basic prompt to say, write a LinkedIn post on a certain topic, it's going to pull from all its generic knowledge of the internet, and it's going to give you a really generic response. And what separates the people who are posting effectively on LinkedIn and the people who are not are the ones who are offering true perspective and true opinion. And that needs to come from the subject matter expert themselves. And so what we need to do is build in a system that not only writes the LinkedIn post, but is actually continuously aggregating that context and that information into the Claude system to create more effective posts. So what the input is your team's belief and voice documented once and reused every week. Asterisks that should be documented every month and reused every week. So we constantly have a new source of input. Again, the advanced version of this will use sales calls and internal calls to actually be that internal, net new input into the system. Then we have the engine, which is going to run through Claude, and it's going to draft your point of view